Let's talk about 70s Fender. When you look at Fender over the decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and getting into the 2000s, I think you see a really stark divide when you get into the 80s. Here we have a 1983 Fender Dan Smith era Stratocaster, and you're gonna see a lot of changes here compared to the ones that were made just a few years before. These are gonna have a thicker polyurethane finish, which is not gonna wear in the same way that Nitro will. You see a little bit flatter fretboard radius. You see all kinds of new bridge options become available, everything from this kind of top loader bridge to locking tremolo systems and all kinds of crazy stuff. I think these feel way more like a modern era Stratocaster than what we think of when we think vintage Strat. As well as the spec changes, by the mid-1980s, you also saw the Fender product line expand greatly. For the first time, Fender wasn't just producing guitars in the USA, they were also producing guitars in Japan. There was no longer just a Fender Stratocaster model. You were seeing standard Strats made in Japan, standard Strats made in the US, you were seeing super Strats, you were seeing a whole line of Squier guitars. And for the first time you saw reissue guitars, which is where Fender took the most iconic years of their Stratocaster, Telecaster, Precision Bass, and more, and made a new, faithful recreation to those original models. I think this was really the end of an era for Fender, as for the first time they were now trying to reproduce guitars they'd already made. But what came right before this is another era of Fender that is very highly debated, which is the guitars and basses from the 1970s. This was the heart of the CBS era. It's pretty widely known that Fender was starting to cut costs at this time in order to increase their production volume and meet the high demand for guitars. Because of this, many of these guitars did not live up to the expectations set by those made in the 50s and 60s. While 70s Fender still carries a premium price like any vintage Fender would, most of these guitars are not going to carry the 5-figure prices that a lot of golden era Fenders ask for. You can still get into a more players rate example of a 70s Fender for around the price of a high-end reissue, especially if you're looking at late 70s. So today I want to take a look at 5 Fenders made in the 70s and give a non-scientific overview. Now these are not 5 perfect all original examples, these are close to what you'd actually find in the real world. These are mostly players grade stuff, there might be some swap parts, but I think this offers a good representation to what you might actually be shopping for. Since these are more in the players grade realm, these aren't going to demand crazy prices like an all original example would. I think it's more interesting to look at these guitars as there's tons of videos out there showing super clean, all original Fenders from every single era of production. But these are guitars that you can actually go take out and play and use in real world situations that are still gonna be fairly accessible price-wise. In today's video, I wanna answer the question, are these hidden gems in the world of vintage Fender, or has the value only risen due to their collectability? Let's get into it with this 1977 Sunburst Stratocaster. As you can see, definitely not the original case here. Put it inside. We have a very, very cool 1977 Fender Stratocaster. I've already ripped this one apart. It's actually all original aside from the pickups themselves. The wiring harness is original. Somebody put Fender noiseless pickups in it, which is a very interesting mod, but it sounds awesome. Let's go check it out. This Strat is absolutely awesome. The neck is kind of just right on it. It's pretty slim, but not too slim, which I really, really like. Nice lacquer finish to the neck, and it sounds awesome. Like every pickup position definitely does like a distinct thing. It still has like a lot of mid-range bite in these two pickups, and then the treble pickup is just wide open, so that sounds awesome. But this is a pretty good vintage Strat, and even with noiseless pickups, it's still it's actually kind of a cool combo because you get all the vibes and patina of this being an aged instrument, but then really clean sounding pickups. So this would be like an absolute workhorse for gigging, because obviously you're going to get into environments where single coil pickups can get really, really noisy if you're on a noisy stage. So this is a great solution for that, where you get all the vintage vibe, and really, to be honest, you get all the vintage sound too with no hum. So this is pretty rad. So this one just came in today. So got to get it on the bench, get it taken apart, see what's original, see what's not, put some fresh strings on it that aren't these horrible black strings, and get it going. So based off just the serial, this is looking like it's a 1978 Precision Bass in black. And you can already see, obviously, the pick guard is not original. We'll see what happens. I'm guessing that the pickups aren't. I bought this as the pickups aren't original, but they weren't sure. We'll take it apart and see. You do have the bridge cover, which is nice. You don't always have that with these. Yeah, let's get going. just gonna clean up a little bit while we're starting to take this apart. You gotta be careful, this is a nitro finish and you don't wanna mess that up. Let's go ahead and take the neck off, see if there's any stamp there remaining. There should be. You never know though. Not seeing a date stamp right off the bat. Yeah, it looks like there was a date stamp. Probably wore away here, so all kinds of fun stuff in the neck pocket. Pretty sure these pickguard screws are, yeah, I'm positive actually. They're definitely not the original pickguard screws. So some of them are a little weird. They're all the same, fortunately. I've seen so many instruments where they'll just have multiple different kinds of screws in there, and it's never fun. Cool. Pots look to be original. Looks to be original wiring. No? Those are looking like the original pickups. Original plate there. That's funny. That's good. So everything electronics-wise looks to be original, from the pickups to the plate here to pots. All the solder points look original, which is exactly what you want to see. Like I just said, when we bought this in, we were told they thought it was a Seymour Duncan pickup in there, so this is better than that. It's looking like the only thing on this bass that has been replaced is the pickguard and the pickguard screws. So that's not too bad, that's pretty original. Time to get this thing put back together, get some strings on it, and let's see how it plays. This is a really, really fun P-bass. Very different from what you're gonna get with a 60s P-bass. This is a pretty thick neck, but I will say for 70s, this is actually pretty comfortable. It's not huge. I would definitely say this is in the kind of medium to thicker range for a P-bass neck. Still pretty comfortable, but it's a lot of P-bass. Weight's not too bad. It's actually pretty light. It's definitely one of the lightest P-basses I've played from this era. Probably 8-ish pounds, which is pretty impressive. So overall, really fun player. And this one's a really nice shape. Like, neck is still nice and straight. The action's pretty low on this, and it sounds awesome. So no complaints with this one. This is just a quality P-bass. This has a lot of vintage vibe, I would say, but it's clean. So it's not like, it's not super road worn. I would take this over like almost anything they're making new now. So take that for what you will. This gets my seal of approval. This one's a real treat. This is probably the cleanest, most original of the bunch. As it is literally all original. This is a 1973 Fender Musicmaster. Beautiful rosewood fretboard. And this is just such a fun guitar. Very grateful that we found this one, as it is a very nicely kept example. Still a bit of aging, as you would expect for an instrument of this age, but really clean. So this is easily the vibiest guitar of all these, and maybe my favorite if we're being honest. I love it's got this beautiful dark rosewood fretboard, and then the tortoise shell looks really, really great on top of the very aged Olympic white here. This is what vintage instruments are all about. This is really cool. It's not perfect, it's got its quirks, but it just plays good and inspires me to play. So I really like this guitar. Another new acquisition. Really cool Stratocaster in this nice like translucent cherry red. I think the original color code for this was wine red, but this is definitely a lot lighter than that now. S9 serial, so 79-ish. Really clean. The finish is definitely aged. There's a lot to wear like that, but the neck is in great shape. But like I said, since this is a new acquisition, I don't know what's going on electronics wise. I have some insider info as I have what looks to be the original wiring harness here, and then the original trem arm. But this is a McNelly harness piece here, so I would guess they swapped the originals for this, and hopefully it's the original pickups in there. I probably, if it is the original pickups and this newer wiring harness, I'd probably leave the new wiring harness in it, and if the next owner wants to put these back in, then great. But there's probably a reason they swapped these out, so I don't want to go to all the trouble of putting those back in, messing with the solder joints any more than we have to. And then, yeah, so we might leave that to the next person. Let's check out the pickups. Let's see if there's a stamp on this one. Actually, you know what I can do without wasting these strings? Take our capo. If you don't waste your strings, throw your capo on the first fret, detune it a ton, and then you can just take the neck off. I want to point out before I do the reveal here, this new burn mark that is on the bench, and I think I know when that would have come from. Yesterday was a rough day.
Some soldering was going on.
A lot of soldering. Whole lot of soldering. There we go. Still faded, but a little bit of help there. Probably some overspray there if I had to guess. I don't know for sure though. I'll definitely be comparing because I've seen some things on the finish that I'm definitely want to audit more. Let's check out the pickups. I love this neck. I just want to say that. Love the neck on this guitar. Ooh. As I predicted. These are gonna be the original Fender pickups. Looks to be the original Fender plate too, which is nice, pickguard. And then as I guess this is a more modern wiring harness that they've popped in. So we could throw those back in and it would be original, but then it wouldn't have original solder points. Honestly, it's one of my biggest pet peeves when people piecemeal together stuff and then say it's all original. So I usually like to just present a guitar the way that it is and say, this is what it's got. We've got the original parts. You can put it back in, but this is how we found it. So it's probably how it'll stay. I will save Kaylee some time and take photos of this now so she doesn't have to. I think that the finish was touched up on this. Obviously, once we do the listing, we'll like triple verify everything, but I think it's the original finish with some overspray, and I think that's why different areas have aged differently. But I could totally be proven wrong. Like I don't think that should look like that. See, why is this red? There's also some red wire here. See, it could go both ways. I could also see Fender just accidentally doing that. So. So before we get this listed, there's still a couple things I want to double check on, but this is a pretty original example. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing with this one so far. I'm gonna get this tuned up and then we'll see how it sounds. We'll see how it plays. This Strat is a lot of fun. It's got a very like round sound to it, especially with the middle and neck pickups. It's really, really warm, pretty bass heavy, and then you flip it over to the bridge pickup and there's still quite a bit of bite. But I would say this is definitely not a super bright Strat, which usually something with like a maple board, this kind of setup, this is gonna be bright, but it's not, which I think is really cool. One of the warmest Strats I've ever played, and also one of the heaviest Strats I've ever played. Fairly thick neck profile here. This is definitely a lot thicker than you're gonna get with the 60s one. And a lot thicker than the other Strat that we looked at today. I enjoy this more than an American Professional Strat by a lot. I really like the neck profile. I like how it has the lacquer finish here. It's almost got like a bit of a V going on up here, which I really, really like. A lot more vibe than you're gonna get with the newer Strat. And again, being that this is clean, it kind of gives like almost a different impression than I get with a lot of other vintage Strats, but not in a bad way at all. Like this feels good. It feels right at home without feeling like a super road-worn guitar. I really, really like this. If you offered me this or an American Standard or American Pro from the last 20 years, I would absolutely take this 10 times out of 10. So last, but certainly not least, this is one for my personal collection. This is a 1974 Telecaster Deluxe that is very, very unoriginal. So to start, if you look here, you can see it's a little bit different color there. It's because there used to be a Kahler tremolo when I got this guitar on it. And had that filled, tried to match the color, then dropped the Godot bridge on there, and then these are Porter pickups. And it's got a closed split, which don't always use that, but you got it. It was actually missing the wood in the middle here, so there's no screw there. Just look at how well this is aged. It's awesome. Most of this guitar is not original, and I love it. And this, to me, is everything you want in a player's grade guitar. This is not a collectible example of this. This is not a $7,000 guitar. This is a player guitar. And I love it. And I'm very grateful to have it. And I love it just the way it is. Let's check it out. It's tough to know what to say with this guitar because like my own guitar that I'm used to playing all the time, so I never expected to be like reviewing it, but I love this thing. I'll be honest, I do wish that it had bigger, or not bigger frets, but taller frets on it because the frets are very worn down and it's either about time for a refret or something, and I hate refretting old instruments. I want to keep them with the original correct frets, but it's a player. It might be time to just swap them out. So this thing's fun. I do wish this had the original pickups, but also I like that this was such a project when I got it. I'll put a picture on the screen now if I could find it. If there's no picture, I couldn't find it. Oh, I will say I paid $910 on an eBay auction for this. And I would tell you this, I was in a Taco Bell with Eric and our friend Bobby and a few other friends, and we're eating Taco Bell. I'm eating the cinnamon, like hush puppy things they were doing at the moment, the Cinnabon things. And I remember I was just bidding. And I said, I'm not gonna pay more than like $700. This is a long time ago before these were as expensive, but because I saw it had the Kahler, I don't even think this had pickups. It maybe had one Seymour Duncan pickup that the wine was broken on. But it was a project to say the least. I got the guard from Kaylee way before we started working together because she had one. I was like, hey, let me have that guard. And I think that's still this one, so thanks for that. Obviously this one is the least clean. I mean, you can see it's kind of all torn up there. There's very few actual original parts. So this one's, it's interesting. I would say it's got a lot of vibe too. I know I said the Musicmaster definitely has the most vibe, but this is a very, very close second. I don't mind at all that any of the parts are not replaced. To be honest, the fret condition is the biggest thing for me. And these aren't like trash by any means, but yeah, for me, otherwise, I don't mind any like the swaps. As a player instrument, I don't think it not being original takes away from it at all. as long as you like the parts that are in it. So from my perspective, 70s Fender, and specifically late 70s Fender guitars, are some of the best value on the market right now. These are still proper vintage Fender with all the patina, the nice thin nitro finishes that are gonna age really nicely over time, and these are still the guitars that are getting reissued. These are the original examples of these, and you can still get most of these for under $5,000. I think these are really great buys, as you can still take them out and play them, not feel bad about it, especially if you have a player's one. You can definitely just take it out, enjoy it. From a collectability standpoint, there's a lot of really important models that came out in the 70s, such as the 72 Telecaster Deluxe that's reissued all the time. I think guitars like that are gonna go up in value significantly in the coming years, as I think these are really, really important to Fender's legacy. So let me know down below in the comments which one of these is your favorite. Actually, all of these aside from the 74 Tele, that is mine, are all gonna be for sale on the shop, so click the link below and check that out if you're into it. They could be yours. Small update from me in the shop. I am finally back in the shop for more than a day at a time after like 5 months of traveling. So we're getting to make more videos like this. So if you have an idea for a video in this format, then please let me know down below what that idea is, and we'll see if we can make it happen. As always, we really appreciate you guys taking the time to comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And more than anything, just checking out the video. It all adds up and we appreciate it. We will be at the Philly Summer Guitar Show, so we will see you there. There will also be some new dates coming up for Secret Keeper, so be on the lookout for those. We'll be on the road soon, and we'll see you guys there.